Yo, what's up guys? Grim here. So I just finished up the Mayhem race. We hit level 90, I think it was 2 to maybe 2.5 days into the race. So a pretty slow level 90, but I was just taking it easy. So I thought in this video I'd go over kind of like how I built my character and what I did to get to level 90, and also a few tips that might help you guys out still trying to get there. So I decided to go with an Ethereal Knives character once again. I believe it's pretty much the best leveling build you can go with right now, as long as you can get the gear pretty easily, which Mayhem kind of allows. So to kind of start things off, I got pretty lucky when rolling my items here. In terms of like my gear, I got Comb's Roots really early, and then I took them into Cruel Lab with myself, and I just enchanted them and got Leech on them first try. I bought this belt, it was pretty cheap, and I rolled these gloves myself with an Insanity Essence, which is really important. And I got pretty lucky there as well. I rolled 80 life on them and a little bit of lightning resist and crafted some cold on it. In terms of my chest piece, I did have this 5 linked, but I decided to try and 6 link it after I hit 90, but that didn't work out so great for me. But for the like most of this league, I was using a tabula rasa, which I farmed in Blood Aqueducts. I dropped this Bisco's amulet really late, so it wasn't really important at all. And I bought this Escher's mirror, which is a shocking like 1 or 2 C at the moment. I bought mine for about 4 C, but this thing is really what carried me most of the way because with all the boxes in the maps, you just gain damage the more mobs there are. So with so many mobs, you just gain like a bunch of free damage. Like my tooltip is like 22k, and I go up to like 200k in box maps, so it's pretty ridiculous. Nothing too crazy here. Sybil's Lament, and I brought a Brightbeak for 4C in like Act 3 or 4 when I got as much currency as I needed for it. My helmet's pretty bad as well. I just looked for something with a lot of life on it. In terms of the build, you kind of really do need to get a Brightbeak and the shield, but everything else is pretty like flexible. You don't need all this other stuff. In terms of flasks, the only real important one is having a Vinctar, which I got pretty late, but it's not 100% mandatory. The Leech on boots will carry you a little bit, and a life flask. And then you do want to have a bleed and freeze potion available to you as well, and the Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline is pretty useful as well. Kind of moving on. So apart from the build, on the talent tree, I just picked up as much life as I could and a little bit of crit and some damage. I did actually end up picking up Inspired Learning around 88, and I started to use that and I rolled beyond on a bunch of maps, which you'll see in a little bit. But yeah, Inspired Learning was really great, but I sacrificed a lot of life nodes. If I take all this out and refund all of the Inspired Learning stuff, you can actually see my life go up. It'll go up a heap. So it's 4.6k at the moment. I'll take that out, put this jewel in, and we can pick up a ton more life here. We can grab this, this, and we could get another jewel socket here if we wanted. But yeah, now we're up to 5.2, which is a lot more life to play with, especially if you're playing on something like hardcore. So yeah, my gear wasn't great. My passive tree was kind of tailored towards clear speed, but yeah, you can do a lot with this build and it's really fun. Yeah, so kind of in terms of tips and tricks, I will just show you my map pool right now. It's pretty huge. You're not gonna have a problem with maps at all this league. Another thing is I didn't even Merc Ascend. You don't need to, in my opinion. Yeah, I didn't really have any problem with damage at all, and my gear isn't too great. I'm not using any damage gear. And yeah, for the Atlas, I didn't complete too many maps. I just stayed on around tier 7 to 8 and just did whatever ones had the boxes on them. And then that'll give you plenty of experience to get to level 90. So I will just real quick throw some footage of some crazy maps I did here in the background. Um, yeah, so we got some maps here. I'll actually just move my camera over here. I make some pretty funny faces, so it's definitely worth checking out. Yeah, so in terms of tips and tricks, what you really want to be doing to start off with is trying to shore up your resists as soon as possible. Like we're talking in the earlier zones, you're going to be getting 20 invasion bosses and exiles. Those are going to freeze you, stun you, curse you, and like shock and bleed you. So you want to try and get those resistance flasks like bleed and freeze really quickly, or maybe try and pick up a few resistance items like maybe a Fairgraze Tricorn or the Wanderlust boots. That'll give you freeze immunity. That's a particularly important one as well, because of how the boxes work. They can freeze you on activation. So yeah, you want to get all of those covered as soon as possible and get your resistance caps up to 75%. So when you kind of get a little bit later in, to the act, you can kind of have the opportunity to start skipping zones which have invasion, ghosts, and exiles in them. And the reason you can do this is because the boxes will give you so much experience that you'll be like super over leveled for any of the zones you want to be doing. So you want to do as many boxes as you can, and then when you get into the zones which don't have boxes, you want to skip through those as fast as possible. So in terms of like leveling out of the way, you should be able to get through that no problem. Invasion can be a bit annoying. You might die a few times. So if you're on hardcore, just take it real slow. I couldn't imagine playing this league on hardcore. It would be very difficult, and I've seen a lot of really good players die. Anyway, yeah, so once you get to like the later stages of the game, we're talking Act 9, Act 10, you might want to start farming up a little bit of end game gear. So what I did was I farmed Exiles for about an hour. I used the Rarity Gem and I used a Rarity Shield and Gold Rings and Amulet. And I actually didn't get anything really good at all. I didn't get my Tabula Rasa and I didn't really get anything to speak of, to be honest. So you can do that. I've seen a lot of people get it in like one run or 20 minutes worth of farming, but yeah, I did it for an hour and I wasn't too impressed. The other option is to do Blood Aqueducts with boxes on it. This was really successful for me. I got my cards in about half an hour, so yeah, I got my tabula way faster there than I did get it from Exiles. So Exiles is kind of like you're gambling a little bit. You might get a tabula like first try, or you might not. But the Blood Aqueducts will eventually give you a tabula sooner or later. So I would definitely go with the Aqueducts. It'll give you XP as well because you'll be leveling from there as opposed to some of the lower zones which won't have it, where you're farming Exiles. And you can also get a lot of good currency from the boxes that you're doing as opposed to just farming Exiles, which don't drop much currency at all. Anyway, so yeah, that's gear covered. You should be able to get a tabula that way, which honestly should last you to 90 as long as you're playing a decent clear speed build. Um, but yeah, the other thing which which I'll point out real quick is you need to pay attention to your map mods, because with so much crazy stuff going on, you can easily just get one shot, which will really obviously set you back a lot. You'll lose some experience, or you'll get sent back to standard if you're playing hardcore. So things like damage mods, like crit multiplier mods, added cold mods, and stuff like that, you really want to be avoiding. And especially a few of them are elemental weakness, and vulnerability, and as well as minus max resistances. Those ones will get you killed even on box maps because what happens if you don't have like 6k life? You'll walk up to a box, it'll have an Ice Nova on it, and if that Ice Nova hits you with elemental weakness or minus max, you're just gonna die because it'll hit you for like 5k. That's happened to me a few times. I think it happens to me in this video that you're watching behind here, and that's not even a minus max map. It just hits me for all my life. So yeah, try and skip over and re-roll as many map mods as you can. You're not going to have a problem with currency. There's just so much currency in this league, and it's a void league, so people don't value it too highly. So you should be able to have really good access to all of kind of re-rolling the maps how you want them. Um, so yeah, in terms of when you're at maps, what maps do you want to be farming? It's pretty simple. You want to farm open layout maps with as many boxes as possible. And if there's no good open layout maps, you want to just be farming boxes, just straight up. It doesn't really like you can afford to go lower tiers as well with the boxes because they just add so many mobs to the map. Yeah, there you go. There I died to the Ice Nova. So yeah, just focus on boxes, and a good way to find out where the boxes are is by using a website called poecraft.com. It's kind of a community website where you can enter a zone and vote what league is on the zone, and that'll show that to everyone else. So it gets filled in pretty quickly. Obviously, it resets every hour, so you kind of do have to wait for a few minutes when the hour clock's over. But yeah, you'll be able to find out where everything is, and you'll be able to farm effectively without having to check all the maps yourself. Honestly, playing this league without that is very annoying and difficult, and you're going to be farming some pretty shitty maps with some crappy leagues on them. So yeah, use that website. It's fantastic, and kind of like my last little tip here is in this race and the last one, you don't actually have to go to red maps to get to 90. As long as you're playing like a decently like fast build, like Cyclone or anything like that that can kill the boxes quickly, you can just sit in tier 7s and 8 maps and you can be completely fine and just grind your way up to 90 that way. It might take you a few hours, but then you don't have to deal with like excavation and colonnade and stuff like that. You don't have to deal with those bosses. You can kind of bypass them and just keep doing your really easy maps to do. Especially on a build like mine, which can't kill bosses for shit. So yeah, moving on. The like kind of like like final bit of advice I have is if you have like a ton of currency, you're like level 89 and you have some pretty good gear and your character's getting pretty beefy, you can just roll beyond on all the maps. Beyond plus 20 strong boxes is completely ridiculous experience. It's like super absurd how much experience you get. So yeah, that can really speed up the process a lot. I think I almost beyonded all the maps from 89 to 90, and it was super fast and actually super fun, as long as you don't die. If you're dying a lot, then it's definitely not worth it. Just roll normal boxes. But yeah, if you can survive it, and you have like an inspired learning or something, it's really fun and really fast. But if it's a bit sketchy for you and you don't have the damage for it, I would avoid Beyond and just roll normal maps. And yeah, do it that way. But yeah, overall, it was a really fun league. It was a really good experience. In future, I would like them to add maybe a few other things. You can see that I got killed by a ninja meatball. It always gets me. God damn it. But yeah, I'd maybe like to see them beef up breach a bit more. Like maybe be able to activate two breaches at once. Not sure if that's even possible on their end, but yeah, that'd be cool. Um, Invasion bosses, maybe they could make that a bit more interesting by combining it with Beyond, so it's Invasion Beyond instead of just Invasion. That would make it a pretty attractive thing to do instead of boxes, because at the moment boxes are just the best. You can't really beat them. They give you currency drops and they're the best XP. So yeah, they could beef that up. They could add Harbinger. 20 Harbingers would be pretty interesting in my opinion. That'd give you a good alternative to boxes, so you'd get currency and stuff like that from that, and that'd be really fun. And the spirits, I mean, the spirits are kind of hard to do anything with, but yeah, they're terrifying. And when you run into them, they're kind of like that shock value, but you're never going to farm a map with them. So yeah, I definitely think that the league could be improved. I think they will maybe change it up next time, which would be cool, because we've had this two times in a row now. But yeah, like just a few touch ups, and I think I'd like to see this at the end of every single challenge league. It's really fun, and it's a really good way to like go out on a bang with each league. So yeah, I hope this guide kind of like helps you a little bit. It's not really a guide, but yeah, just a few tips. Maybe make your life a bit easier. Maybe skip out on a few deaths yourself, and yeah, hopefully you guys can get to 90 and you win big on the prize pack lottery. I haven't gotten anything for the last one, so yeah, hopefully we get a bit lucky this time. Hey guys, cheers for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.